One of the most recognizable aspects from the long-running, iconic, and influential manga JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is the battle cries and catchphrases used by the series' various characters and stands throughout the series' entirety. Although JoJo has changed quite dramatically over its past 30 years of serialization, to the point where JoJo today is almost unrecognizable from what it was in the beginning. Starting with a gentleman's journey of justice and vengeance using an ancient martial art breathing technique to defeat various undead monsters. And after 30 years of the series' creator Hirohiko Araki continuing to hone his craft, drawing and writing manga and going through various life experiences, we are now in the 8th part of JoJo, following the story of a very bizarre person who doesn't even really have a name, but does have 4 balls and is suffering from amnesia, and we follow his journey to discover who he is and search for a tree branch. So with what JoJo has become today and all of the different changes the series has gone through, the one thing that hasn't changed for 30 years, being a constant in Phantom Blood all the way to JoJoLands and everything in between, is the battle cry Aura being used by every main character in the series, well, except for Josuke and Giorno because Dora and Muda. But the point is, bizarre battle cries are something that every part shares, no matter how different they may seem. So today, let's talk about the meaning of the battle cries and stand cries from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So although cries like Aura and Muda are commonly grouped in with stand cries, they have been in the series from the beginning, before there were even stands. Aura, of course, being used by Jonathan and Joseph, and Muda being used by Dio in part 1. Obviously, these being more so battle cries than stand cries, Muda being the literal translation of useless or futile, commonly used by Dio as more so of a catchphrase. But eventually Dio would repeatedly shout it over and over again in and out of combat, most likely because of his sociopathic tendencies bleeding into his expression. And from this word's simple origin, it has become a staple in the series used by various characters throughout its entirety, more so as a reference to Dio rather than Muda's actual meaning. The other battle cries, stand cries, sound effect, whatever you want to call it, that Dio is notorious for is his iconic weary. At first, the word weary was just simple onomatopoeia, being the letters in kanji that form the sound of a very unnatural hissing exhale used by the undead and vampires of the series to express their inhumanity. This really isn't anything unique to JoJo, as just the sound weary can be heard in many old vampire flicks from the 80s during Phantom Blood serialization. I'm sure you've heard this sound many times before outside of JoJo, as when it was first used, it was more so of a but then, like most things in JoJo, it got taken a bit over the top. And weary really began to become a JoJo thing when Araki began to use it in reference to Phantom Blood, as its original use was generally used when Dio would lurk menacingly or would be in pain, but in part 3 when Dio returned, it was used more so as a battle cry or a screech for victory, yelling it out when he was confident of his victory. And again used in parts 5 and 8 by Giorno and Yoshikage Kira as a simple battle cry and not for its original meaning, but in reference to its original use in the series, as the meaning of weary makes no sense in the context of when being used after Dio. But in Giorno's case, it was clearly just used to make a connection between father and son. So enough about Dio, let's talk about Joestar, starting with Jonathan and his iconic Aura. JoJo Part 1, and just in general the beginning of the series, was heavily inspired by popular manga of the time, Fist of the North Star, whose main character Kenshiro had the battle cry which he would shout in situations similar to how we have seen Aura used, badass beatdowns and barrages. So one of the many aspects from Fist of the North Star that bled into JoJo was a battle cry for the main protagonist. Jonathan's being Aura, which could have a variety of origins based on how Araki was familiar with the term. As we all know, words can mean and be used differently to different people and cultures. Simply Aura itself doesn't really translate into anything meaningful, as its use in Japan was onomatopoeia for the Japanese equivalent of hey, but in a more aggressive manner. But I'm sure it meant something more specific to Araki based on how he heard it used or what he associated the sound with, but more or less, it's just a sound he wanted his main character to yell in battle, But over time, much like Dio's Muda and Weary, Aura has really taken on a whole new identity. Aura was first used by Jonathan when letting out a powerful attack barrage or when he was in a struggle, almost like a grunt, but I think the most common association with Aura is the stand Star Platinum. Jotaro and Star Platinum's use of Aura is similar to Part 3 Dio and Giorno's use of the word Muda, not so much using it for its actual meaning, but more so in reference to its first use and as a simple battle cry. And Aura has continued to appear in the series used by a variety of different characters in reference to Star Platinum's stand cry, used by Johnny, Gyro, Part 8 Kira, and Part 8 Josuke. But Jolene's use of Aura is inherited from her father Jotaro, much like Giorno's inherited use of the word Muda. And from the original battle cry, Aura has spawned many variations with no other meaning than simply being a sound effect spelled out to give individuality to characters but still keeping a similar sound to Aura. Polnareff's Hora Hora Hora, Josuke's Dorarara, Abachio's Urya, Fugo's Ubasha, Urmi's Osha, and Diego's Usha! I apologize, Usha's my favorite and I just had to let one out. But anyways, most of these stand cries, besides Josuke's, are not reoccurring, but rather just a one-time use. I suppose just to give these stands their own unique spice. Some of the most unique stand cries lie within the 5th part of JoJo, as stands whose characters would shout the first few syllables of a word and finish the word with the final blow, such as Bruno and Sticky Fingers, Ari 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 Verdelci, simply translating to farewell or goodbye, and Narencha's Aerosmith shouting Vala 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 Via, translating to fly away, which is very fitting for his stand. And of course, Arrivederci and Volervia are Italian, and I apologize for my pronunciation. And then of course there is Trish with her Spice Girls' infamous wannabe stand cry, which is literally the stand shouting the lyrics of its musical reference, Wannabe by Spice Girls. And I just wish Araki let more stands do this because it's just beautiful. It's actually quite surprising the little amount of stands there are that actually have unique stand cries. There are over 150 stands, but only around 10 or so stand cries, of course, some stand cries being shared between characters and stands. Mostly connected through alternate universe equivalents and bloodlines. And although every main JoJo in the series has either a battle or stand cry, which is most often Aura, Dio is actually the only main villain in the series with a battle cry, of course being Muda and Ri. But one of my favorite villains has more of a catchphrase than a stand cry, but it is usually said after the use of the stand's ability, and it's none other than Funny Valentine's Dojan. The origin of Dojan most likely spawned from the Japanese slang Jan, which would be used or added to words to express a surprise or shock. And Dojan is used in a similar way to Tada, as if Funny Valentine's D4C's ability was a magic trick. And I personally think Dojan sounds way better than Tada in any situation. And if you think about it, Funny Valentine is pretty much a magician-themed stand user. He covers things up and makes them disappear using a giant white bunny. Just another reason to love Funny Valentine. So when it comes to the bizarre and over-the-top stand cries in JoJo, for a majority of the series, they are just in reference to the series' infancy, letting you know that you're reading JoJo no matter what direction the subject matter goes. Be sure to like this video if I fought your boredom or if you just enjoyed, and I also want to mention that this weekend from June 1st to the 4th, I will be attending Colossal Con in Sandusky, Ohio. So if any of you are in the area or already plan on attending the event, just tweet me and we can probably meet up. I will be cosplaying as Murasaki Bara from Kuroko no Basket and the Plant Appraiser, of course, from JoJoLands. So yeah, hopefully at least a few of you guys will be able to attend the con or already plan on going and we can meet up. But anyways, guys, thank you all for watching the video and I hope you enjoyed.